Guys, so another week has passed, and so I'm here to talk about all the books I read this past week. But before I get into that, I thought I'd talk a bit about what's going on in my life. I'm still working at home, like I'm sure a lot of people are doing, hopefully, and so for the foreseeable future at least. And but yeah, outside of working from home and reading lots of books, I had an incident with my dog. He's 12 years old, and so like of course like there's things that's gonna happen, and but it had a little scary incident because I called the vet, and they're only doing emergency things only, so like keep an eye on him to see how it goes. But he was just having a normal day, being his like mostly sleepy self now that he's older. Takes lots of naps and sleeps. But I was going to feed him his little afternoon snack that he gets, and he was not running up to me like he normally does. He was just sitting there. He like glanced over at me, but he didn't move. So like I knew immediately something was off. But that morning he was eating fine, walking fine, everything like that. And so like I kept an eye on him, and then later on when I needed to take him out for a potty break, he didn't want to move at all either. He was very lethargic, and like I said, not eating, not drinking or anything. So I was a bit frantic. And yes, that's when I called my vet, and they're like, the only emergency is only wait and see in the morning, or in 24 hours, how's he doing. And so luckily, I left food in his bowl just to see if maybe in the middle of the night he'll want to eat something. And luckily he did, and he was still in the morning not as lethargic as he was, but he was at least eating and drinking, so that was an improvement. And so now he's back to his normal self. So I don't know what happened. I've no idea really. He does get into things if I'm out of the house. Like if you leave something out, he's gonna take it. But I was there with him. I've been with him like for weeks on end, and I know for sure he didn't take any human food or anything like that. But he might have gotten something out because I know like it happened on Tuesday, and there's landscaping that's done around the apartment, and so they also like spray for bugs and things like that. So I'm like wondering, did he eat something that was like sprayed with that poison or what? I don't know. But again, I walk him on a leash, so I don't know. Anyway, so hopefully fingers crossed everything's okay. It's been almost a week now, and things are looking good. So yeah. Anyway, outside of that, I've had lots of time to read, and that's mostly all I've been doing. And I don't know, like last week I had lots of like hit or misses with my books. Like I either loved them or like I almost like I didn't hate them, but yeah, I just like kind of like blah. And so this week it was carrying on with the same thing. And so I eventually, like on Friday, I just like gave up. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do some rereads. Just I know guaranteed those I'm going to like. But these books I'm talking about aren't rereads. Going on to this coming week are the ones you'll see. But so yeah, so starting off with a book I actually really enjoyed. This is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. And I've never read anything by this author previously, but I think he writes like mostly horror books. And so the little blurb here was really got me. It was fried green tomatoes and steel magnolias meet Dracula in this southern flavored supernatural thriller set in the 90s. So it's about a group of women who have a book club, and each of the chapters has like a title from a famous book, and that was really cool to have. And it's mainly following Patricia, and so she is like the stereotypical housewife. Even though it's in the 90s, it's not set in the 50s. She raises her kids, and she takes them to soccer practice, and she bakes all the cakes and things like that. And her husband does a lot of traveling and making the money and all that. And so she gets roped into a book club where they read almost solely horror books. And so that she gets kind of creeped out by that, and it follows some of the other characters as well in that group. They're mainly focused on Patricia. And then she has a neighbor that moves in, and she doesn't think anything suspicious about him at first, but we as readers know immediately that he's a vampire. Like this, like it's very, very obvious in the first time you meet him, because he is like found lounging in his living room, not breathing or anything, and he's like very cold, and he looks like very pale, and so yeah. So she's used to be a nurse before she became a mother, and so she revives him, and it's like, okay, he's fine, and things like that. But there's a bunch of different elements that come into play right from the very beginning, right when he moves into the neighborhood, that immediately like sets her on edge. Not immediately with her, but like we as readers know, oh, okay, something's gonna happen. But then slowly over time, she comes to realize too that something's going on. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to see these group of women, take on the vampire and not the men. They don't leave it to them. They, design everything and plan everything and confront him. And yeah, so yeah, it was a really good book, and I highly recommend picking it up. It's perfect for like these like humid days are coming. Like I'm sitting outside, really enjoying this weather. It's kind of cool right now. It might rain, so I wanted to film a video before it starts raining. But so yeah, it's perfect for those like humid, like sticky days. Because this is set in South Carolina or Georgia. I think it was I think it was Charleston. I can never remember these little details, but yeah, I think it was it's Charleston, South Carolina. And then I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, and this is for the Book Tube Prize. I can't talk about it, but so yeah, I just wanted to mention that I finished it. Just to keep track of everything I'm reading. And then I read a collection of stories, My Man Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse, and this is the first book in the Jeeves series. I have never read this author, but I was in the mood for some humorous books, especially coming off like a horror book. But yeah, this didn't really do it for me. I don't know if it's because I didn't read them earlier or it's not my humor. I don't know. Yeah, it had a collection of stories like Leave It to Jeeves, Jeeves and the Unbidden Guest, Jeeves and the Hard-Boiled Egg. And it's like a lot of like British humor, and yeah, so I don't even know what to say about it, 'cause, like each of the stories felt the same, and so yeah, it just wasn't my cup of tea with it. But yeah, it's like the Gentleman Jeeves, and have uh, Bertie Wooster is the other one, and the Bertie is like the Wooster character. He's constantly getting into trouble, and Jeeves helps him out. He's like the gentleman, and yeah. So then I read a YA book, Break the Fall by Jennifer Iacopelli. And this was very interesting because it's set, the main event is the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. And so like us, this was written before all this, the coronavirus happened. And so now like we know it's like, I think it's delayed till, I don't know, like 2021 or 2022, I don't know. But for sure it's going to be delayed. It's not even 2020. So it was like kind of like weird to read a book that, has this as like the main event when it does not happen in real life. But it follows, what's the main character's name? Audrey. And she has been practicing all her life. She's a gymnast and to go to Olympics, and she's very good. But even though she's really really young, she's already feeling lots of side effects of doing gymnastics. It's very hard on her body and like her back. She has lots of problems there. But she's holds up her strength to be able to compete in the Olympics. And then something happens. It mentions it in the summer here, so it's not really exactly giving anything away. But something happens with her coach that the coach is much needed for these Olympics, but they lose their coach, and so everything gets turned upside down because she has to find a new coach and hopefully keep her team together. And the coach has their own method of training them, and so yeah, there's it's like a conflict there with that. And then she meets a cute boy that's actually the coach's son, and but they're told they can't exactly be together because it's frowned upon because the mother is the coach. But yeah, it was a really interesting YA book to read. There was a lot of gymnastic talk, a lot of talk about the different moves they make, and so a lot of like sporty mumbo jumbo that I know nothing about, like lots of moves and things like that. I like watching, when I watch the Olympics, I like watching like the figure skating and for the summer, gymnastics and things like that. But I don't know any of the technological terms or anything. I just know it's like it's pretty to watch. And but yeah, so yeah, this was nice. I then read The Shadow of What Was Lost. This is the first book in the Lacanius trilogy by James Islington, something like that. And this was my pick for Aussie April. I might also read The Dry by, I can't remember the author's name. I think it's a thriller, but this is a fantasy. And it's about, the main character's name is Davian, and he is in a group called The Gifted, and they are controlled. They're not like free to practice their magic because of what's happened in the past. And so with this book, the way it was written, I didn't care for at all. With fantasy, I expect there to be some sort of world building and get a real feel for the area and the characters. But in this, that was very slimly done. It was almost told solely through dialogue. And so I never got a sense of the world or even the magic that they do. There was not hardly any explanation on the magic system. And so I felt very removed from the story. And it was quite a big book. This was, at least it felt like a big book. It was 602 pages and it dragged. Yeah, I don't know. And I looked it up, and this was, I think, the author's first book. And so I think that explains why I really didn't get along with the writing. I mean, the idea of the plot line, the story was okay. I mean, Davian goes on this adventure. He starts out in school, and then he sets off on an adventure and with his friends, and he meets characters along the way. And I read a lot of fantasy stories like that, but yeah, the writing really took it away from me. And so yeah, I don't think I'm continuing on with this series just because I could care less because like I never like I got a sense of the world, like I was saying, or the characters. I then read Love and Gelato by Gina Evans Welch. And this is a book I saw one of the booktubers talking about for the romance readathon that was happening a couple weekends ago. And this is about Lena, who she loses her mother. And her mother's like dying wish is for her to go to Italy because the mother has experience there. And so she leaves her grandmother and her best friend, and she goes to Italy. And she thinks she is going to reconnect with her long lost father. She hasn't had any contact with him the whole 16 years of her life, and there's reasons behind that. And but when she's in Italy, she is reading her mother's journal, and so the mother's journal predominantly is about her time in Italy. And so you see the daughter and the mother's experiences with gelato and love, like the title talks about. And Lena meets a friend who is half American and half Italian, and there's a relationship blossoming there. And also there's a mystery unraveling of what happened with her father. Yeah, so this was a really nice, sweet story. Then I read Back in the Saddle by Ruth Logan Hearn. This is the first book in the Double S Ranch series, and this is following Colt Stafford. And he is coming back from working on Wall Street. He had a business that kind of tanked, and so he is back on his family's ranch, and he meets Angelina, and she's not on the run, she's in hiding, and you come to find out why. But she is working as the ranch's cook and cleaner, and mostly doing lots of cooking for all those ranchers. But yeah, this is mostly a romance, and I can't talk. The dynamic between the two, I didn't care for. The man, Colt, is very much the macho man, and like women cannot tell him what to do, and so oftentimes he doesn't confront her directly, but you're constantly getting his thoughts, and he's constantly talking about how women can't tell him what to do, and that really grated on me. And the woman's story with her being in hiding was a little bit improbable, and yeah, I just really, it was the guy's character and like the whole the dynamic between the two that I didn't care for at all. Like, well, I mean, yeah, at least for the first portion before he finds out more about her background. Yeah, his demeanor was just very, very off-putting. And if I can't really root for one of the characters, one of the people in the relationship, then I have a hard time, enjoying the book. And then the last book I read I was trying to again find some humor, and this was I Owe You One by Sophie Kinsella. I've read quite a few Sophie Kinsella books. I've only read the first book in the Shopaholic series, but yeah, that series I didn't really like that much. But I do often tend to like her standalones, and this is about Fixie, and she is working at a like a bakery supply store, and she is constantly fixing things. And so one day she's at a coffee shop, and she saves the guy's laptop from this water damage. She like dives and like gets dressed herself, but she manages to save the laptop. And so the owner of the laptop says, "Okay, I'll owe you one," and that's where this title comes into play. And because she didn't know initially when she saved his laptop that he was a very wealthy man, and then her like long lost friend slash her longtime crush from high school comes back into town, and he is looking for work, and so she wants him to stay in her area. She doesn't want him to move because she wants to hope, fingers crossed, that she can have a relationship with him. And so she takes the IOU and decides to turn it in to the guy, to the owner, to the owner of this business, and say, okay, instead of you giving me the favor, I want you to give it to my friend here. And there's this whole chaos that ensues there. The long lost guy, the long lost friend that she wants to be in a relationship. I could not stand him. Oh, I cannot wait for him to leave. Like, just get out of here. He was not a nice guy. Like one of those like moocher friends, and up to no good whatsoever. So yeah, it was a bit annoying, to be honest, to read this book. There was not as much humor as I like from Sophie Kinsella, and but yeah. But the story, if you take him out of the picture, the story was pretty good. So yeah, those are all the books I read this past week. Let me know if you've read any of them. But yeah, I'll see you soon. Thanks, BookTube.